Hello, everybody. This is the VAPALS ELCAP call of the OSEHRA Working Group for Wednesday, April 3rd, 2019. We have some stuff to show you regarding the intake form, changelog, and the data dictionaries. So we're going to start with the data dictionaries. And Alexis is going to show us what he's been working on for the last couple weeks. Go ahead, Alexis.
Okay, thank you, Linda. So, in terms of data dictionaries for the for the various form fields, we have sort of a three-step workflow, and what we have in the first step are these Google Sheets, these web accessible, group editable spreadsheets. So we started with some JavaScript that Dominic wrote to capture a lot of this data from the HTML of the various web forms themselves. And then we've been going through manually and filling in the blanks. And then, so of course, the nice thing about these is just that although we're not sharing them with the world, it makes it easy for people with various, areas of expertise to edit these documents. And we then export these into tab-separated value files, which are stored in the repository. So that's under the docs form field subdirectory of the public repository. And we've got a little attribution text here, which we might well expand upon. Since this is probably going to be, in many respects, the sort of public-facing format of these data dictionaries, I don't actually know what GitHub will do if we look at one of these. Yeah, that's kind of what I suspected. And as most people on the call probably understand, these aren't really intended for human consumption anyway. So that's, of course, what they look like in a text editor. We then use a routine to parse these and turn them into the actual data dictionaries. And I should be very clear that these are not FileMan files. We're using YadaDB to create these graphs, and I will show them here in just a minute, or at least one of them. And so I've actually sort of tongue-in-cheek been calling them pseudo data dictionaries, although they really meet any reasonable definition of data dictionary. They're just not FileMan data dictionaries. Let's see, I think perhaps Larry has something to say, and I should probably stop at this point and ask if there are any questions as well. Okay, I'll take that as a no.
No, that's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. If Sam is watching, he'll be appalled that I'm doing this and not actually entering my credentials.
I'm not appalled. I do it all the time.
Hi, Sam.
Hi. I wanted to ask, okay, I'm sorry. I came like 2 minutes late. I might have missed the introduction. Why are you guys doing this? Why at this stage of the project are you creating these data dictionaries?
So the first reason.
Do you want me to answer?
Well, let me say that the first.
Go ahead, sorry.
So the first reason that I was asked to start work on this was to facilitate the change log. So that was my first reason, but there are some others as well, and I think that's probably why Ricardo would like to chime in. So please do so.
Yeah. So apart from the technical reason that Alexis just gave, the data dictionary here, we view it as potentially serving as a standard, a reference standard for what types of data, what types of quantities you should be capturing and tracking for lung cancer screening globally. So the publication of this will be utilized by groups around the world as they collect lung cancer screening data, and that we've already been asked by several groups to provide access to this. So that's why we're doing it.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Anything else, Sam?
Nope, that's it for now.
Okay, thank you. So, as anybody who's familiar with FileMan files can tell, looking at this, like I said, these are not structured as FileMan files, but they have sort of a similar structure. And I guess I would be happy to walk through the structure of these if anybody's interested in that, but I'm not sure that it's worth belaboring this beyond saying that we are creating at present two types of cross-references to to facilitate the ways in which these files need to be used, or graphs. And so we've got a B cross-reference that hinges upon the field name, and that's the HTML field input name attribute. And then in order to make the changelog something that is comprehensible to human beings, we have a second C cross-reference for the labels associated, well, the values and labels associated with the fields. And that is particularly helpful when we have a field that is, for example, a radio field where you can only choose one of several options. And so in those cases, for any single field, and let's see, is there one on screen here?
Yeah, just down a little bit.
There's not one on screen at the moment.
You're right.
Well.
But George suggests that
Alexis,
you show something that he Skyped
yeah, there's
you.
look at the chat. The thing you're looking at in the terminal there is also viewable in a little better form.
Oh yes, right. Yeah, thank you for that, George. Yeah,
and you can do a find on this if you're looking for something. You go ahead and do a find on it. It's, anyway, go ahead.
Oh, did you put what you're into the Skype chat? Okay.
Yeah, in Skype chat, I gave you the URL.
Got it. Okay. Yes. So here's a much more, parsable structure or representation of the data. And even without finding a specific example, it would just be the case in the cross-reference, in the C cross-reference, that for a radio or a select one type field, we would have multiple entries for a single field name. So I guess, are there any questions at that point? Because while I would be happy to say more about, the rationale or the routines or the structure of the graphs themselves, I mean.
So page down and show the cross references that are there.
Sure. Here, let's just do. Why is my end not working? There we go. Yes, and as a matter of fact, no, we don't. That's not a duplicate. Was there something here specific that you wanted to see, George, or for others to see?
No, I think we were just showing this is this is a view into the graph as it's stored of this data dictionary as it's stored. It allows you to search it and view it and get at it without even being logged in. Not on the terminal. It's a secondary way of doing it. So it's
right.
But this is the actionable graph. This is the graph that the system will use at when we create a change log, for example, to look up what the text is that should be displayed for a particular value in a particular field.
So yeah, I think that may be all that I really have to say. And then I guess I will. Linda, do you want the stick back for just a moment?
This is the graph for one form, right? This is the graph, for example, for the intake form.
Right. So
can you show perhaps the graph for the CT valve form?
Absolutely. And this is actually a much larger graph. Isn't the CT evaluation one that had 400 and something fields in it?
Yeah, a lot of fields.
100, yeah.
A lot of fields.
I do love this view of these, George. So
Thank you.
yeah. So we have seven forms all told, and so we've got 7 TSV files and 7 graphs. And in fact, I'm going to be creating a master graph today that contains all of the fields. So there will be 8 of those graphs and 8 of these views in total.
Cool. This is Ricardo. Just a quick question. Is it easy to potentially show just the required elements versus all of the elements?
Well, let's see. Yes, we don't have a default web view for that. Let's see, I might have to...
We actually could build one. It'll take a few minutes. If somebody else wants to continue on, maybe with the change log or something, we can probably build a little something that will go down and look at all the ones where there is an active field in the graph, isn't there?
Yeah, it should just take a couple of lines of code.
We can do that fairly.
Okay. Okay, so I'll show the change log while you guys are cooking up a demo of what Ricardo just asked for.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. So. All right, so the change log. This is a patient I selected that has an intake form that was already filled in. So this is a person who has already been through chart eligibility and been through the intake process and has various go on mute, please.
Hey, somebody's not on mute.
Mute. All right, so, okay, thank you very much. All right, so anyway, there's only one element on the change log because I clicked on active and pressed submit before. But the idea of a change log is that after the initial entry of the form, someone might come back and make changes to some of the fields. So they may change some of these entries. They may say 1, 2, 3, 4. And they have an apartment number, 1A. Let's see. So, and their phone number might have changed. And let's say they're at the same zip code or something. Oh, and the status, we discovered that they're really not urban, they are rural. And that they are current smoker, and they also were a past smoker. And there's some adjustment as to how many cigarettes per day they actually did consume, and how many years. It was actually, they were started younger, so it was like 32 years, and they haven't quit. And we learned about, let's say, a scan that they had previously. We want to make sure that's in the intake form. So, and they're still active. We may want to put past scan confirms this. So then we press submit on those changes, and we'll generate a new intake note. This note is under revision, where this is not the note. At a later time, we'll have the new revised note. But now the point of this is that we go back to case review and go to the intake form. We go down to the bottom, and we notice that all the changes I made have been added to the change log, so that you know exactly what date this was done. And now where the DDs come in is that the fields have are coded. This is this rural urban field has a U or an R in it, and in the change log we could put it's been changed from a U to an R, but that's not very informative to the reader of the log. So what we do is we look up in the we use the graph that has the DD in it to look up, and this is a code that Larry and Alexis put together. Is they do a lookup into the graph and come back with the external label that goes with the values. And so we're able to so for example here, to telephone, in-person, telehealth. So these values are translated from their internal format to the external format that's readable. And that's an example of how we use the DD to generate this kind of text for the changelog. Any questions?
That is very cool. This is the first time I've seen this. So very nice,
yeah,
George.
It's a neat. Thank you. It's a neat feature, and this is like we do this pretty much like in the similar way to how we generate a report. You know, it's analogous. I mean, the CT eval report has a dictionary also that's used that's keyed off of fields and things. So it's but now instead of just having a dictionary for the CT eval form, which is all we had up till this last set of things that Alexis and Larry have done, and with Dom's program. Now we actually have a dictionary, not as rich a dictionary, but a dictionary nonetheless for all the forms, which could conceivably in the future be used to generate reports or generate change logs or generate other, other kinds of information from the data saved from the graphs of the data saved from the forms. So I think it's pretty cool.
George, this is Ricardo again. This is really wonderful. Thank you for showing it and doing it. I have a question actually for Artit, if he's on the line. Looks like he might be. Artit, are you there?
I'm here. Just had to take myself off mute.
So you see this level of detail that's in the change log. Is that what historically LCAP has done, or I thought in the past it's been said that the changes would be reflected for entire sections. Can you comment on that?
We had actually only tracked changes to specific sets of fields. So, for example, the address. You know, we would basically track any changes to the entire address block and just put in kind of one comment for that. But you know, some of the other things we did not track. So I guess, you know, in this example, we didn't track the booking status, for example. But that's not to say that you shouldn't track it.
So do you think it's all right that we're tracking it, Arthur?
I guess I would say that more is better than less, but
good.
I mean, what's your concern, Rick?
Oh yeah, it was one of potentially not being able to well, being overwhelmed with changes potentially for some cases. So if somebody has a whole new address, you get a whole bunch of new lines, as opposed to, I guess, one in the way you did it, you'd get one line that says, "Here's the new address." But I think we can, based on your reaction to this, it seems reasonable to run with what we have and see if it becomes an issue down the road.
Right, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
This is Dominic. I have one comment, one question. First one is that on the first line there's actually a spelling mistake on clinical indications. So I'm not sure if that's coming from the data dictionary, but if it is, it should probably get updated.
Yeah, I noticed that too. So we'll
Wait,
track
it's
that
spelled
down.
correctly here. Yeah, it's spelled correctly on the screen.
That's right. It's
okay.
It must
activity for some reason.
All right, good catch.
And the second one is I guess more of a question, but at some point we're planning to add the time to the date and time, and also who did it, you know, a username or something to that effect.
Well, the time I could add easily. The who did it I could not add easily. That had to be in a future version.
Maybe a more important question is it helpful or necessary?
Dom, I agree with your where you're heading. I think eventually we need to add that to the system, but for now, it's not going to go in the first version.
Great. Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. So
Alexis and Larry, did you guys have any success?
Not yet, George. I know exactly what to do here. So I'll actually just edit the SAMEFF, the routine that parses the TSV files, and we can create a view that of the required fields for each form, if that will suffice.
That's fine. Yeah. It's right. It's the potential in the future is that we could enhance we can enhance this viewer to have a more generalized query capability, where you could put criteria on the URL and be able to see it. But we haven't built that yet, and that would be, I think, a better way than having to do a one-off for just these.
Sure.
Because it's a general need when you're viewing a graph to be able to see see selected fields out of it. So yeah, I'll take that as a challenge, and see if we can add some query capability to the viewer. And that might be, but that would be, that
Later.
might be. Well, yeah, it's not later. It's not. I'm just going to put it on my queue as something to do.
Sounds good. Other questions or comments? Okay. Okay, it sounds like Larry has something to show. So, hang on. There you go. Are you in your backyard, George?
I am.
The bird song sounds lovely.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we have some birds there. It's true.
This one, I think.
Okay. So Larry's just figuring out. There we go. Here we are.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, here's an example. It took a little bit to write some quick code that I wasn't broken. But here's an example of the ones where required was set to 1. So these are the required field names.
Very nice.
Cool.
But Alexis
Very nice.
Alexis will write one, and so we should it'll be easy to add to his, Sammy. Anyway, and you'll notice, by the way, that the way that we did this is that it actually shows 3 times because there's 3 possible answers. But anyway, so it will not be difficult to pull out all of the required.
But thank you guys for doing that on the spot. That was cool. Anything else? Well, that's, I believe, all we have to show today. So, unless there's anything else, I think I will give you guys back half an hour of your day. Isn't that amazing? Have a good day, everyone, and we will hopefully see you next week.
Thanks, Linda.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, George.